What if the biggest crisis we face isn't the news at all? What if it's the quiet loss of people who know how to build, fix, and teach others to do the same? Take a second with that. Just 1 second with that. Think about what you depend on every single day. Think about who made it and think about what happens when that knowledge fades. Today, my guest, Terry Iverson, has spent his life trying to close that gap. Today, he shares why it matters and why it should matter to you. Next on the podcast. Let's do this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, get ready, get set. From the studio to your speakers, it's time to tune in. This is the show that tackles fatherhood, life, and everything in between. No sitting on the sidelines. Tonight, let's dive right in. And now, her man who meals the wisdom, the laughs, the real talk. Your host, ready to lead the conversation, the one and only Mr. Joe Foley. Let's do this.
Hey, welcome to the podcast. I'm Joe. Yes, Joe Foley. Thank you for spending a little time here with me today. I really, really appreciate it. If it's your first time, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you showed up. Hey, if you're in the U.S., I hope you had a good Thanksgiving with someone you care about in your family and friends. We're rolling right into the holiday rush right now. That's how I kind of feel like right after Thanksgiving. It's like, it's on. A lot of pressure, a lot going on. And you taking time to listen. I really appreciate it. I get it. I get the holiday season rush. Before we get into the interview with Terry, I just want to say, take a moment. Think about this. Really, think about this. Who was your mentor? Who showed up and showed you how to handle the world? That's important. Who gave you a push when you needed it? Remember the kick in the butt when you needed it? Hold that in your mind for a second. And let's jump into the interview with Terry Iverson. Some of the most meaningful stories don't come from headlines. They come from people who still build with their hands. Today's guest, Terry Iverson, has spent over 40 years in manufacturing, carrying on his family legacy from precision craftsmanship. After watching generations drift from the trade, Terry found Champions Now, a nonprofit helping young people find purpose, opportunity, and skill careers without drowning in debt. He's also written 2 books that ask bigger questions. What if success isn't what we achieve, but what we build, and who we lift up along the way? And this episode is more than the machines. It's about mentorship, fatherhood, and finding purpose in work that shape the world.
Very good. Thank you for having me, Joe.
It's funny, you spent a long time in manufacturing. How did you get involved in that?
The family, this year is our 100th year for the family in manufacturing. And I thought that I was not going to go into the family business because I have uncles and my grandfather, my dad, all went into manufacturing. In my junior year in college, I woke up. I thought about psychology, photography, and a lot of other things. And what am I doing? I'm really good in math and science. Took AP Calculus, AP Physics in high school. And why am I ignoring the natural path? So, like most everyone today and back then, I still went down the college path into engineering school. And to be quite honest, I just got disenchanted with too much theory. In order for me to learn, I have to have the application and the visual of the concept. And sitting in front of a blackboard before computers were even part of education. After 6 years of college, I said, okay, I'm done. And I decided to go into the family business with my dad. Initially my uncle and then my dad.
What is the family business? I was just curious.
Initially it was my uncle that hired me. He had a machine shop that was a budding, growing entity. He bought it when it was 3 people and he ended up selling it in the 90s, late 90s. It was 750 people.
Oh, wow.
But the family legacy business was machine tool distribution. So we sold machines and serviced them and programmed them and set them up and rebuilt them for some of the most precision made products in the world or in the country for sure. And so that started in 1931 when my grandfather started our company.
What are some lessons you took from working, especially with your family and stuff like that in the business?
The reason I almost didn't go into it, Joe, is because my dad was such a perfectionist and he held and my siblings to a very high standard. And I had high standards to begin with, being his oldest son. And one things that I learned is a lot of integrity, a lot of honesty, extremely hard work ethic, and looking at any problem or any offering as if you were the person that it impacted or that bought the machine or the application or the solution. And if it didn't make sense to you as if you were going to buy it, then you're doing something wrong.
What do you think is, I was thinking about that for a second about hard work and work ethic and stuff like that. What did you think about the trend of where we're going today in the world?
Whoa, that is a really heavy subject, right? I think I'm in the end of the baby, right? I'm at the tail end. And the baby boomers, for whatever reason, had this insatiable work ethic of just outworking anybody they could or everybody they could. And what happened is a lot of our offspring, our children, saw that and didn't quite buy into that. They didn't really necessarily see life as just work. To a point, to an attribute, the next generation looked to find a little bit more balance than my generation. And that in itself is not a bad thing because I'll be honest, my generation and me personally, I pretty much overdid the work ethic and probably an adjustment was in order even for me. But at the same time, this will tie into the mentoring component, Joe. If a mentor is trying to embark all his or her tribal knowledge, legacy knowledge, and all of a sudden you're ready to walk out the door or run out the door when the bell rings, so to speak, that's not right either. Our generation, baby boomer generation, probably could have had pared it back a little bit.
Mhm.
The next generation or generations shouldn't take it too far. They should still maintain that work ethic. And in the Midwest, the US is known for a very conservative, a lot of farm families that learned how to work very hard on a farm,
Mhm.
a family farm. And I attribute a lot of what I grew up with to that.
I was thinking about that is the traditional path is everybody goes to college now. Everybody seems to want to go to college and then they prep you to go to college, but there's other opportunities, other way to make really good living. But sometimes when I was growing up in high school, we had a trade school. I went to carpentry and you could have been a mason, you could have been, but it doesn't seem like there's so much focus on the trades now.
There's a refocus. My career just spans 45 years. So I started in 1980, and of course, we're sitting here at 2025. And so what happened in the 80s when I first got started, there was a huge offshoring component happened in 80, 81, 82, 83, and so forth. And someone made the mistake of saying that we were going to be a service-based economy. Okay. And that's not what I wanted to hear because I believe in making things in this country and that our middle class is totally indicative of making things in our country. So over the course of time, during that period of time, apprenticeships were closed down, VOTEC and shop classes were closed down. And all through the 90s, like it was just going employment probably was 20 million in manufacturing employment and pared down to about 12 or 13 million, I believe what it is now. And so as a result, in the mid 90s, I met someone named Harry Mosier, and Harry's a dear friend of mine, and he's about 15 years my senior. And he started something called the reshoring movement. And the reshoring movement started bringing manufacturing back. And so, all the way through the 90s and even to date, there's been a reshoring effort. And now, what you find is some high schools are bringing back or starting up shop classes, and apprenticeships are starting to get, they're not, I wouldn't say they're full fledged in a very vibrant scenario as it once was, but that's the hope that it gets back to what it once was.
I don't think they gets promoted enough because they don't realize it's great to have the office and be the CEO of a company, but you can make a good living in manufacturing. You can make a good living in the trades, but I don't see them promoting enough.
The needle is just right about here and it needs to be over here. So it's starting to. We have a long way to go. My contention with my organization, with what I do out in the marketplace, so to speak, is that we need to at least introduce the concept of manufacturing, the skills that are needed for manufacturing, the fact that you can work with your hands and your mind. And that is very satisfying, very fulfilling for a person like me. Even though I was a smart kid, I just got bored to death looking at a board. And that being said, there's a desperate need in terms of, I think there's 400 to 500,000 positions that aren't filled as of right now in this country for manufacturing. There's talk of upwards of almost 4 million jobs in the next 5 years that will be out there in manufacturing that need to be filled. And if people don't even know that we're doing manufacturing and what the careers are or what the jobs that are needed to be filled, how can they even go down that path?
I was thinking about that for a second. Is I know that where I live, the local community college works with one company that trains people. It's a manufacturing company, but they train
Mhm,
people at like a certificate program,
mhm.
college to get people. You take this course, and then you can get hired here at this job because they're training them for that position.
Absolutely. There's all sorts of certification process in manufacturing, whether it's forklift driving, whether it's robotics, whether it's quality. There's just all sorts of really good paying positions, most of which, because of the need for more workers, most of which are paying overtime, which obviously can be time and a half or double depending on what day of the week it is. But that being said, manufacturers, and a lot of people don't know this, and this is one reason why I'm so against students going into debt, is a lot of manufacturers, if you show that you show up on time or maybe even come a little bit early and maybe you stay a little bit later because your mentor's trying to teach you something and you tell the truth, manufacturing companies are more than happy, more than willing to pay for your upskilling into what the skills you need to do the job that they want you to work for.
I always thought most jobs in the world can be people can be trained to do them. That's what I always thought. They
Mhm.
always want because you always look at you need a college education to be a person that just cuts wood or something like that. I don't know. I'm not saying cut wood, but it's actually
Mhm.
most of the jobs I think you can be trained.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say, and when I hired with my company over the years, aptitude is a real thing,
Yeah.
right? You have to have the aptitude, whether it be spatial thinking or to see the big picture or critical think. There's a lot of things in aptitude. Generally speaking, especially if you have a passion or an interest and an aptitude for a certain skill set, the fact that if you find something that you enjoy and that you do well because your aptitude and you're inclined, you're mechanically inclined, or mathematically inclined, or whatever the case may be, then you're going to spend a lot of time doing a job, working overtime, and you're going to blink and it's going to be 45 years later and you're going to have had a great career. But finding the match is the key.
All about have a positive attitude, willing to learn too.
And that sometimes the soft skills, Joe, in the younger generations, whether because of technology or COVID or who knows what, texting or lack of interpersonal communication, the soft skills are really important. So if mom and dad are telling son and daughter, your soft skills, you need to pay attention to this, they're right.
What are the soft skills though? I'm curious.
Soft skills, young people have a tough time communicating. They write it off as being bashful. And I tell young people, I'm sorry that you don't get an out for being shy. You need to apply yourself, showing up on time, being diligent, being reliable, not darting out the door right at the strike of 5 or 4:30, whatever the quitting time is. And then the ability to critical think. That's something that I think we need to do better in our schools and that as parents we need to teach our young children, and as they age and become older into young adults, what critical thinking is and how valuable that is and how you can get paid very well no matter what profession you're in if you critical think.
It's interesting about critical thinking. It's hard to teach somebody that if they don't want to learn. But I noticed that, well, especially with the younger kids coming up, younger generation, they lack the skills of critical thinking because I think everything was, I don't say given to them in little ways.
Critical thinking, I'm going to put this on in some ways on the school system a little bit
Mm.
and the parents. Some parents, they'll drive their children down to the bus, they'll put them on the bus, and not a public bus, mind you. And back in the day when I was young and when certainly my parents were young, My analogy is you tell your child in today's world to go down to and catch the bus. And after some period of time, they figure out how to do that. They get down there and they have no change and they have no way of paying to go somewhere,
Mhm.
as opposed to, okay, I got to go on the bus. What's the fare? How much do I take with me? Do I need change? Where do I get off? And as we mentor our young people, whether it's our own child or not, it's on us and it's on the educational system too, to not just teach to a concept, but also give them reason to figure things out. I was on a panel for educational, technical education, and they said, Terry, what would you do in your class? And I said, you know what I would do in my class? Every day I would sabotage something that all the students in the class would have to figure out. They would come to my class the second day saying, is he going to do this again? By the third day, after I've sabotaged something, no matter what it is, the computer, the power cord, the light switch, whatever it is, the clock that's on the wall, they would be looking for, okay, what do I need to figure out today? And I think young people, as they're growing up, those are some of the things we need to think about, even as parents.
I think about that all the time too. I watch my son, I give him something to do. He's 12 years old, and I give him, and he's having problems with it. You gonna help me? Nope. I'm gonna let you figure it out. I'll give you a few minutes. You try to figure it out, but this is easy. I can just go ahead and take care of it. But my thought is I'm hurting him if I do that.
Yes, I agree with you, Joe. I think there's a safe way and a compassionate way to let our children fail, and that's under the umbrella of the family. And so if they're inside the house or they're in the family unit, there's safe failures that teach lessons. Now, there's other failures that are a little bit too risky. But if you can teach your child or your student or your neighbor's son or daughter a lesson that leads to critical thinking, boy, that's a gift because you'll make a lot of money no matter what profession you're in.
But also, manufacturing and stuff like that is what are some myths or misunderstandings about manufacturing?
There's a lot of myths. First of all, the first myth I would say is that people think we don't do any manufacturing.
Mhm.
One of the most telling statistic from the Manufacturing Institute is if our manufacturing sector, our manufacturing economy in the US was a country, the economy would be the eighth largest economy in the world
Oh, wow.
compared to other countries, their entire economy. We do make a lot. We still have about approximately 12 million people employed in manufacturing. It's not your father's or your grandfather's manufacturing of old. There's a lot of automation. There's a exceedingly amount of computerization. And I make an analogy or a correlation that we have, from what I read in my research writing books, that we have over 3 billion gamers in this world. That blew my mind. And I have 3 children, 3 adult children, and one, the youngest one's a gamer, the other 2 are not. So I don't understand that world, but what I do know is with the CNC technology, computer numerical control technology, there's a correlation and an analogy from digital gaming to digital manufacturing.
Oh, wow.
And all these young people that game, they want to be game programmers. From the studies that I've done, the demand for programmers in gaming is going down. The interest for programmers in gaming is going up. So you have this going in different directions. So that means anyone that is looking to be a programmer in the gaming industry probably should be looking at manufacturing as well.
Especially with the age of AI. How is that affecting manufacturing? Because I think that would make a big impact.
I think AI is going to touch our lives in ways we don't even know yet, Joe. I'm sure that from a process standpoint, AIs can take a program and optimize it and optimize other things. Digital twin is something that's already moving into manufacturing where you can have a computer model
Mhm.
like the Mars rover.
Mhm.
They couldn't really test the Mars rover on Mars and they couldn't replicate it. So they made a digital Mars so that they could understand how things would react in a digital world. That's called the digital twin. So I think that there's a great deal of opportunity, and there's a lot of in AI, there will be a lot of things where entire normal, what we would call normal or more mainstream, like accounting I think AI is going to do a lot of accounting facets that we never thought would ever go into a computer environment. But there's a lot of other things that will affect careers that a lot of people are probably studying right now to go into. And so this is moving at light speed. So you can't just turn your head for 10 months or a year or even 6 months and then say, oh, I'm still going down this path. And if you're at that crossroads, look up manufacturing and do your research and see if there's a niche or a match with what you're interested in.
You talk about the Mars rover and stuff like that. I remember hearing that testing drugs for medication for patients would normally take years to do all these tests. They can do 200 tests in a day with the that's probably all the AI and stuff like that, which is incredible. It's incredible what it does and stuff like that.
It is. There's a lot of things that we need to embrace. We've had the cell phone come on, the PC came on. There's all these life-changing and technology advances, electric vehicles, humanoid robots. There's so many things in the next 5 to 10 years that are going to really alter our path. And I think if anything, one thing I learned in my 45 years is to be flexible and adaptable. And that's gonna be more and more besides critical thinking, that's gonna be the one thing that is gonna have to be apparent in every individual because things are gonna change so, unbelievably fast.
So the person who can adapt will survive, basically.
My dad, Joe, he was really good at adapting, and he was really good primarily because he had a lot of medical issues, and so he had to physically adapt and change his lifestyle in so many different ways, and come to find out in business, that helped him immensely in business, and so that's one lesson that I think our youth can heed is be adaptable and learn the word pivot because everybody in today's world is having to do that.
I have a quick question. What if a teenager heard you talk about manufacturing? What would you tell them to spark some curiosity in them?
I think I tell young people all the time, Joe, that back in my day, ancient way back when, we had every excuse not to know.
Yeah.
And with the internet and with the web, there's no excuse. There's any video you could dream up or at least know what to ask. You can look it up and learn as much as you want to know about it. Computer manufacturing, automation, you can type any of these in Google or YouTube, and you can just open up a whole new world that you didn't even know existed. So I guess what I would say, I try to offer little snippets of education on my YouTube page, take a concept and talks about it for maybe anywhere from 2 minutes to 14 minutes. And I put them out there just to get people interested on our Champion Now YouTube page. You can go so many places just by looking up digital manufacturing, computerized manufacturing, automated manufacturing, and you'll learn as much as you want to learn.
I always think about YouTube. I always call it YouTube University because I always look at it as you can learn anything. I learned how to repair my car door, my side mirror on my car by watching YouTube. So you can learn anything in YouTube. You just got to have the time and patience to take a chance to do it and learn how to do it, stuff like that.
I had a young man that worked for me for a short period of time, and he was an entrepreneur. He wanted to have his own shop, which I ultimately financed his first machine. And he was one of the first people that no matter what I asked him, the first thing he did was look at YouTube. And it made me think that, okay, this is the future. This is what young people are going to do. They're going to look at YouTube first. In my first book that I wrote, there's a young man who's not as young anymore, but his name is John Saunders. And he has a YouTube page. I think he has about 800,000 subscribers. But his company is NYC CNC.
Mhm.
He basically taught himself manufacturing. I think he started his company in his New York apartment.
Oh, wow.
And little by little, he literally taught himself. And a big part of that was on YouTube, learning how to do things off of YouTube.
You talk about YouTube and stuff that we just talked about AI for a second, and I know that you can learn anything with AI now too. You can just type in, I want to learn how to do this, and it'll either tell you where to find the information or tell you about it, how to learn how to do it.
For sure.
And also another thing too is about mentorship. And I always think about back in the time when the guy was the guy with the blacksmith. I'm thinking the word blacksmith with the hammer and on the horseshoes and stuff like that. But it's over
Mhm.
time, it's like people learn of the carpenters, the machinists, and how important is a mentorship?
Oh, man. Okay. So I grew up in a single parent family. My dad lived in Chicago. and I lived with my mom in Florida. And if it wasn't for mentorships of family friends, coaches, both little league coaches as I was younger, and then high school coaches, if it wasn't for them, I don't know where I would be today. I'll tell you that. And then as I got in the working world, I had two uncles. My grandfather had already passed, unfortunately, but I had my father and my two uncles, and even a coworker at our office that were unbelievable mentors. And what I tell young people, if they look with a frown when you bring up the word mentorship or mentor, I tell them, give it a shot, give it a chance, but realize that you have the opportunity to also reverse mentor. In other words, it doesn't have to be a one way relationship. And a lot of baby boomers or elder people in industry, they may not be as prone to technology as even a young person.
Mhm.
And so you see this with grandkids and grandparents quite a bit. The same thing could very possibly be true with your mentor in your job, at your work.
I can think of that my old boss who just retired 2 years ago. He was my mentor, and I was always having somebody to if you had a great idea, if he's "Go for it. You can do it." Awesome, and I always help him with computers because he needed a little help with that, but he was always the
Mhm.
person that he was my biggest cheerleader. That's a good word, and always positive role model.
I can remember visually where I was 26 years old. I had just moved from Wisconsin to Illinois to work closer with my dad. And I had developed an expertise in used equipment that he didn't possess. And I remember him calling me. I'd just gotten a car phone. This was 1985. And it wasn't a cell phone, it was a car phone in the car. And it was extremely expensive. And the per hour charge was insanely expensive. So I had to be careful. But he called me that day and he says, "Hey, I want your advice." Imagine the opportunity when you've been mentored by your father, your boss, and the first time he or she asks and says, "I need your advice." That will be something you'll hold on to and never forget for the rest of your life.
I noticed too, like, especially where I work nowadays, is I'm becoming the older guy in the department where I work, and I realize I'm becoming more of a coaching role. Even though I'm not the boss, but I'm the mentor to the younger guys who are in my
Mm.
department, and they come up with questions, and is because I guess as you get older, things from your experience that other people don't see.
Absolutely. A mentor doesn't, there's a difference between having all the intellect in the world and having the experience, knowing firsthand how to handle certain situations. So it has nothing to do, experience trumps intellect every day of the week. Effort trumps intellect every day of the week. So, case in point, you can find mentorship in the most common and obvious places, or it can come from somewhere that you're not expecting it. And so it all comes down to humility and just being open with your coworkers because you never know where something is going to come and actually add value to your career or to your life.
But it's also nice that I get to help some people too, younger guys coming up and stuff like that. What I was curious about is I wonder if we could talk more about that, about the high school and mentors of the middle school and leading it. Curious about that.
I tried to do a camp, a live camp, where I took a CNC machine tool down to Jacksonville from Chicago, and the machine was worth between fifty and $100,000. The inspection equipment was worth probably $30,000, and it cost me thousands of dollars to ship it down there. And I had a camp with 10 young people, and the cost of doing a live camp like that on site was just not sustainable. And so I came up with a concept on tabletop machines.
Mhm.
And then the concept developed and matured over time. So in 2023, we designed a camp called Camp Champ after the Champion Now organization. And we had 6 different stations that are a small, like pop up manufacturing cell, basically.
Mhm.
And we have CNC turning, CNC milling, CNC rotary indexing, CNC laser engraving, inspection, and assembly. And then what we do is we have high school mentors, and we even get a nice hat that says mentor on the side for the high school mentors. And we have them paired with groups of 4 middle schoolers. And then, so every 15 minutes, they go from one station to the other station and so forth. And so at the end of the event, which is probably an hour and a half event, at the end of the event, every child has a pen that they've either assembled or made. They get a laser engraved nameplate with their name on it. The pen goes into a box. They get a nice shirt, not this shirt, but a nice shirt that has the Camp Champ logo on it and their school logos on it. And then on the back, we have a slogan that says manufacturing localism, one career at a time. And it's been well received. Some of the things that I did not anticipate is a lot of people are saying that the high school mentors could be our future CTE, career and technical education, for acronym, to explain the acronym, but they could be our future CTE instructors, which we have a void in the educational system of enough of them. Let's put it that way.
Because what can you share an example or something that stood out to you from one of the camps that you can remember?
You never know who's going to be have interest or who already came in. Usually out of 100 kids, 100 students, there's only one or two that know anything about manufacturing. By the end of a camp, on average, every 100 kids, let's say, there's usually probably beforehand maybe 7 or 8 that know anything about per 100. And then by the end, there's somewhere between 45 to 49 conservatively that are interested in manufacturing. So there's a 40% gain just by, I don't call it curriculum or education, I call it information and inspiration. And so by just having this information, a lot of them light up and are interested, whether male or female, girls or boys, because they're really fascinated with the art of manufacturing.
I'm also wondering, curious, what was it like? Did you testify in front of Congress about this?
I did. There was my local congressman in 2013. There was a small business committee of the House, and they wanted to have people testify from around the country. They give you 5 minutes on the difficulty to find skilled workers as a small business owner.
Well, how was that experience for you?
It was interesting and it was humbling in a way because I was very grateful that they wanted to hear what I had to say. But at the same time, sometimes I don't know that a lot of people outside of the manufacturing sector really understand how big of an issue this is. And so it's been 12 years now, and the problem has even gotten worse than it was in 2013. So we really need to move the needle way more than we are at this point.
I just thought that was interesting, the skilled workers and stuff like that. I know my brother tells me that he works for a machine shop and the skills, younger people coming up, the math skills and how to use it, he has to train them because they're lacking the actual aptitude to do the job.
Yeah, and I try if it's explained properly, most, not all. And I openly tell people, look, it's not for everybody. Manufacturing is not for everybody, but it's for a lot more, tremendous amount more people that even know about it. Finding a match is really important, and manufacturing has salespeople, HR professionals, accountants, service people, repair people. So there's all sorts of different career sets within the manufacturing sector that you may not even realize.
I think it's also giving people a purpose and some work to do. Have some people, young kids, they don't know really, when you're growing up, you don't really know what you want to do. And so that to show them there and have purpose and work, that means a lot. Money's great, but have a purpose is important too.
When you say having a purpose, relate that to having a match with your passion,
Yeah.
something that you really enjoy and something you really believe in. And whether it's talking about a part that you made that put the Mars rover on Mars, or talking about making something that goes into an electric vehicle or into a motorcycle, or who knows what. But purpose and understanding the connection of what you do matters. It doesn't matter what the pay or what the level of pay or where you are in the pecking order of hierarchy. Once you find the purpose and you understand it and it meets your passion, you're going to work a lot of hours for a lot of years. And in any given industry, you're going to be paid better because of that.
People who really enjoy their job don't think their job is work. They just and really have fun and enjoy it.
Yeah. And that's what I think as a culture, because that's a lot about what I talk about is our culture in this country. We need to look, Mike Rose says all the time about all the tradespeople. AI is not going to take over a trade to fix whether it be an electrical problem or a plumbing problem or an HVAC problem or a machine tool problem. AI is not going to take that away. We still need those skills. But I think it's a matter of finding a match of what the purpose is. And you're right. If you enjoy it, you'll do it. You spend a lot of hours doing it for a long time, and that's when people really want to pay you and compensate you.
You have a couple books. I don't know if you want to talk about those, the one about the champs and stuff like that.
Just from a visual standpoint, this is the first book called Finding America's Greatest The thing that I'm proud about is more the subtitle, which is down here, Building Prosperity Through Manufacturing, Mentoring, and the Awesome Responsibility of Parenting. So I think that mentoring I talk about a lot as being really important, but parenting in this country is really important as well. And we've gotten away from some of the values of raising our children, being their best friend, or shying away from the hard decisions to make them critical thinkers, to make them independent. Those are decisions and things that you need to gravitate towards, not hinder away. The second book is called Inspiring Champions in Advanced Manufacturing. Now, the first book was for students, parents, educators, and industry members. This book is for parents and students. It's a flip book, so the other side is for the students, and the manuscript is 180 degrees apart. So you can see that the artwork is inverse, and of course, the book itself is inverse. But the subtitle here is Discover the Path to a Debt-Free Career. And that's part of what we've been talking about tonight is going into debt that many times often ends up where son or daughter are back at home trying to pay off their student loan, either because they can't get a job or the job that they're able to get doesn't pay for all the things they need to be independent and their student debt. And this is something that hopefully future generations don't have to go in debt, hopefully.
I definitely like with the inverted, the parent edition. I thought that was really neat how you did both sides like that. What kind of response have you got back from your book? Have you gotten responses back?
I've had people email me, call me, come up to me, and the first book was very well received. I think the second book, it hasn't been out as long,
Mhm.
but if I get this into the hands of a mom and dad or a child and parent at home, people have been very favorable because they can read the same thing written two different ways, and then each stories and different elements that one can tell the other about. And so it's a way to connect. In our country, and this isn't saying that it's a bad thing, but a lot of parents, we save our money and our goal in life is to send our kids onto something better. Well, something better in our culture is sending them to college.
Mhm.
And that, for some, that's fine. That is the right thing to do. But there's a lot of others that it's not. And so, what the two sided book is designed to is to engage and get that conversation before their junior year when they're making decisions, maybe even before their sophomore year, so they can go into internships and really figure out what they want to do. And if it's college, great. If it's not, if it's going into a 2-year degree or an internship at a local manufacturing company, then that's great too. So that money the mom and dad may have saved for child can be used for a lot of different things. It doesn't have to go to a college education if that's not the right solution for them.
At least starts the conversation. And that's like you said, it's important. Have the conversation and get the people talking because then they can make better decisions and stuff like that. Wrapping up, final thoughts, Terry, anything you want to leave with the audience that would about manufacturing or mentorship?
From a mentorship standpoint, any chance you get, ask yourself, am I a mentor or have I been mentored? And if you haven't mentored anybody, look to your right, look to your left. Chances are there's someone there that needs the mentoring. And it's never too late to start the process. If you're asked to be mentored, be open to it and realize that there's an added ingredient in reverse mentoring where you can actually help the mentor as well. As far as manufacturing, our website is championnow.org. My email address is terry@championnow.org. And I think I have over 80 podcasts that I've been on that I try to put out there for everybody. I've written a lot of articles. The 22 educational videos are all on the YouTube page. So I try to put as much information out there for someone to at least be curious about. And then in the books, I put a lot of facts, figures, and inspirational stories too.
Terry, you got me. I was going to ask you where you can connect to you, but you answered that question before I get a chance to ask you. I appreciate that.
I appreciate it as well.
All links will be in the show notes for this episode. Terry, thank you much for your time tonight. I learned a lot and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Terry, thank you for spending time with us today. I really do appreciate you. I really enjoyed hearing how your life in manufacture shaped the way you see the world and work in family and community. Your story about mentorship and the impact on one person can have on a younger generation's and younger's life that really stood out. Those moments remind us that we do not grow alone. Someone taught us. Someone guided us. Guess what? Someone believed in you and believed in us before we believe in ourselves. If today's conversation sparks something in you, and also if it really connects with you, connect with Terry. You can find more about his books and videos and resources at championnow.org. You can also look up Champion Now on YouTube. There is a lot there for parents, students, anyone seeking the path in manufacturing, or about mentorship too. If you want to listen again or share this episode, you can find it at nosittingonthesideline.com/171. Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate you. Until next time, take care. God bless. See ya.
And that's our show for tonight.